Fentanyl is in abundance. It's everywhere, it's cheap, it's plentiful, and it's causing so many more overdoses.
Fentanyl is a killer that we're just letting run rapids in our streets, in our homes, in our schools, and there's no stopping it.
What about going to a single-payer system in this state? And what would that mean for the insurance industry?
Well, you're not going to get there overnight, that's for sure. It's going to take steps to get there.
We are very lucky to have this segment of history of the Japanese internment. This tells a big part of the story.
Whether Republican or Democrat, I work with Democrats to get done. And I think that this place in this role needs to be about getting stuff done for the people of Washington.
And if you could respond and wrap us up with your closing remarks.
Absolutely.
Mayor, I'm going to bring you back over there, actually. Sorry to mess up. I'm going to have you on the other side. I'm going to put you on the other side. Yeah, we're going to balance out the speakers. And I'll join next to you next. Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm going to get out of the way.
Okay, that's no problem. I think we're all set. Okay.
We all good?
Yeah.
All right. Good morning. I'm Allison Kretzinger with the Department of Transportation and here to provide an update on the status of US 2 and specifically the West Side. Today you'll hear in order from Governor Ferguson, the Mayor of Skykomish, Henry Sladek, the Washington State Department of Transportation Secretary Julie Meredith, and then Glenn Ebern, a local business owner. There'll be time for questions at the end. With that, Governor.
Thanks, Allison. Thank you all so much for taking time to make the trip here to Skykomish, and we appreciate the hospitality of the mayor and the folks here at this wonderful location for hosting us. We just had an excellent community meeting, which we just appreciate that hospitality during a really challenging time for this community. So we have an update on access on Highway 2. And as we have all said many times, and I appreciate all the leadership that's here, from local electeds to state legislators, county officials who are all here, we've been very, very focused on trying to get Highway 2, any part of it we can, open as quickly as possible. We have emergency contracts in place. Those folks have been working 7 days a week because we understand the significant impacts, and that's an understatement, to the community, to businesses, to individuals when a major highway like Highway 2 is closed. If that's closed for several hours, that's an impact. If it's closed for a day, that's a big impact. When you're closed for weeks and potentially months, that's a massive impact. We have been on the west side, from here to the pass is what we're going to focus on. Julie will speak a bit more about the other side of the pass to provide some more information. We provide an update on Friday there, but the focus for the comments here will be from here to Stevens Pass. We've been waiting for an inspection report on a bridge at mile marker 54, I believe, so a short distance from where we are right now. That bridge, and you'll probably hear more from Julie about this, was under multiple feet of debris on top of, within, and underneath that bridge. It was just had a massive impact to that bridge. And we got an inspector's report back late yesterday afternoon. As you can imagine, we were anxiously awaiting that. You know, what is the impact to that bridge? And the news we have to share is not just good news, it's fantastic news. It really is better than we, I think, frankly, could have possibly hoped for. And the good news is the bridge is, all things considered, in very good shape. It will need some work, want to be clear, but that work can wait. The bridge is structurally sound. It is going to be available for traffic, and we anticipate opening the stretch of highway from where we are right now all the way to the pass on Sunday, as in this Sunday, which is fantastic news. And even under the best case scenarios that Julie and I would have been talking about a couple weeks ago, this Sunday was not, on the list of even a potential best case scenario. But folks have been working extremely hard, and I want to give a personal thanks to all the workers who have been working hard on Highway 2 7 days a week to put us in a position to have this good news. We got a little bit of luck as well. We all recognize that. We got a good dose of luck to have things go our way, to be in a position to open up this stretch of highway. I want to be clear, when I say open, It's different than the east side, which has restrictions. The east side has a pilot car where it's down to 1 lane for 7 miles. There's a detour as well on the other side. When I say it's open on Sunday, it'll open as in all lanes, no restrictions from here to the pass. So it's incredibly, incredibly good news. I want to thank all the workers who aren't just working here on Highway 2, but the Department of Transportation has cleared over 90 roads and highways since the storm hit us. It's an incredible amount of work in communities in more than a dozen counties on both sides of the mountain. So I'm deeply appreciative of Julie's leadership, her team's hard work, and also all the workers who have worked extremely hard. One thing we do want to emphasize, as wonderful as this news is, and it is fantastic news, we are mindful that the highway itself, the whole highway from here all the way to Leavenworth, will not reopen as it was, full access, 24 hours a day, for many months. We just want to be really super clear about that. Restrictions are going to be remaining in place. You'll hear more about that shortly. And so really, this is not intended as a through route all the way to Leavenworth, right? It's wonderful access to the pass, but those restrictions are significant. They're time consuming if you're trying to get all the way to Leavenworth. So we're going to be encouraging folks to continue using I-90, for example, to get to the other side of the mountains. But for accessing the pass and skiing, this is a huge step forward. We're so excited about it. And again, I just really appreciate all the community leaders who have really leaned into this to get us where we are today. And that starts with the mayor of Skykomish, who's just been a really wonderful partner. And I want to have him say a few words now as well. Mayor.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks, Governor and Julie, on behalf of WashDOT. It's great news that the highway's opening up to Stevens Pass from the west side. So, I've been interviewed a number of times. Some other businesses here in town have been interviewed about the restriction about lack of access from the west side and the big impact it has on businesses. Our whole community and the businesses here are pretty much focused and revolve around serving. Most of it is travelers and the visitors and basically the traveling public, which this time of year would be the bulk of it is visiting Stevens Pass to go skiing or snowboarding. A lot of traffic also for the east side, but I think under the scenario you guys are talking about, making it clear that through traffic should still use I-90 as an alternate. This is a great first step. It's great news, and we're just thrilled. I think later on you'll hear from another business owner, but I myself have a business here in town. It's a small inn, and again, as I have told people, our business was impacted by 80 to 90%. So this is huge. Sunday things will get back to normal, at least for our ski season. So thanks again, and I'll turn it over to Julie.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, my name is Julie Meredith, and I'm the Secretary of Transportation. As you all know, Washington experienced historic widespread flooding across the state with landslides and levee breaches, and it significantly damaged our transportation system. Our crews, working with contractors, have been working to clear the highways around the clock since this happened. We've been reopening roads, we've been clearing debris, and we've been addressing the drainage systems. I want you to know that every decision we make to open the highway or the roads is made with safety as the first part. So we won't open unless we feel that we can do so in a safe manner. We've opened, as the governor said, over 90 roads that have been damaged or closed as a result of this event. Some locations, like SR 410 out of Enumclaw, we were able to address fairly quickly. Others are more complex, like US 2, and that's going to take some more time. On US 2, several sections were damaged, and some of them were washed away, so I'll talk a little bit about that. But even when we talk about the opening, I just want to remind everyone that it's not a through route. We don't view this as a through route. We think as a through route, you should rely on I-90 or US 12. So that's important to note. But I am pleased to announce that from here to the pass, as early as Sunday the 4th, we will open it up without restrictions. Debris has been removed. I went up, there was at least 5 feet of debris over the bridge here at milepost 54. We had to remove debris above and logs and debris stuffed underneath the bridge so that the bridge inspectors could get under there. And as the governor said, it has been damaged. There's a girder that is cracked. We've determined that it's not a crack that will be hindering travel, but in the long run, we'll be doing some maintenance on that girder this summer. I also observed there's a culvert. It's a concrete culvert. Half of the culvert was damaged and washed away. The contractor has been able to repair that culvert and is right now repairing the road above that culvert. So again, we're restoring the roadway, but this summer we'll have some more permanent work around milepost 54 that you'll see. As the governor talked about, on the pass from Stevens Pass down the next 6 miles, we have piloted one-way traffic. That's piloted one-way traffic that's at 6 in the morning to 6 in the evening. That will operate through January. By the end of January, we feel like we could have 1 lane open in each direction there, but until then, piloted traffic will continue. I would be remiss if I didn't say, even when we do remove it, it's going to continue to be an active construction zone, as our crews will still be working through the area. And I want to remind drivers that they must follow the posted signs and follow the pilot car when it's in operation. They must adjust their speeds and drive accordingly. Be winter ready when you're traveling the corridor. Have a full tank of gas, full patience, and bring your emergency gear. It's winter, and even through this piloted section, it could be affected by weather just like any other winter. So be prepared for snow, be prepared for closures should that happen. So now I get to Tumwater Canyon. Tumwater Canyon has had over 16 areas that have been washed out, damaged, removed. The drainage is gone. The contractor had to wait till the river waters receded so that they could get in and start rebuilding the waters or the roadway through Tumwater Canyon. And that's why through the section of Tumwater Canyon, we have a detour from Coles Corner to Leavenworth. I want to remind you that this detour is it's not the same as driving the highway. It's circuitous, it's got a lot of curves, you need to drive slow and appropriate for the conditions on the detour. So again, I am really excited that we're able to restore access, that we're able to open up as we are. It's, again, not a through route. Use the I-90 for that, but we're happy to get it done. I want to say we're restoring it this summer. You'll see us back in there again as we bring it back to the permanent state. And with that,
thanks, Julie.
Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you, Julie, and Mayor Henry, and Governor Ferguson. My name's Glenn Eburn. I own the deli along with my wife out on the corner, Lusky's Deli. I was just asked to speak about the happenings out there, loss of business, but I don't want to dwell on the negative. I want to thank the media for your coverage, and that has helped bring people in as far as Bellingham for lunch, Tukwila, West Seattle. People have come up just for a coffee or a lunch, which has been great. As Mayor Henry said, some businesses have lost up to 80% revenue. We're a little more fortunate. We've lost about 60%. I think the gas station said the same. So it's a significant loss. The winter season, the 2 biggest weeks are the ones we're in right now, from when the kids got out of school until they go back. So we thank you for your support, and I guess I'll give it back to whoever's in charge at this point.
Thank you, Glenn.
Questions back to the governor?
Thanks so much, Glenn. And I do want to echo what Glenn said about the media, in terms of, I've heard that a lot when I've popped into coffee shops where business owners really do feel that coverage has helped them. As not surprisingly, Washingtonians are rallying around folks who are impacted by what's going on. So I'm not surprised that's what you've seen is heard as well, because that's been a consistent message. And also, I really do believe the media's coverage of the overall event, especially in the early days, helped save lives, just with showing just what the impacts are, the level of the flooding, the impacts. I really am convinced it helped save lives more than someone speaking at a press conference. Those images out there, I think, made a huge difference. Lastly, before we take your questions, we had a wonderful community meeting. We talked about the impacts on businesses, and I know from personal experience opening up a highway like this, I'm a big mountain climber, I'm a big backpacker. To the extent I get free time these days, that's what I like to do, and so that takes me on highways like Highway 2 on a regular basis, and I know where my climbing buddies and I go to get our coffee, where we go to get our lunches. Sometimes we go to spend a night on our way to before we get on the trail. Is at communities like this all across the state. So we're very mindful of the impacts on businesses. That's why it's so exciting to get this open to really help out businesses on this corridor and to really connect our state once again. Just the symbolism of that is meaningful to me. It's meaningful to the people of the state, and we're just super excited about that. With that, we're happy to take your questions, and feel free to fire away.
I'd like to ask Lynn a question, actually, if you don't mind. I actually followed you on Facebook, so I saw your posts as things were going along. And it looked like you were starting to get a bit emotional as you're talking about this. Can you lean into that a little bit and talk about what this has meant to you? Because I could see it was on the way, and we didn't quite get there.
Yeah. So bring it up again. We've had donations from the teachers, put together a donation package. The Crosswater Community Church, a generous donation. All the donations are going directly to our staff. That's our biggest concern, is that the loss of income for eight families up here, the little bit that they get, that's it. And we've been able to keep the payroll where it's at. One of our staff stepped down for the time. We'll have her job back on Sunday. And we'll be back to normal. We've been able to pay them approximately the same amount as they would if we were in business. So, does that answer your question?
Clearly, it's tugging at your heart a lot. Can you just kind of maybe share a message to the people who've been a part of getting you to this point?
Again, the school, the church, just the employees in general have all, come together. They understand the situation. And it's just been great seeing the support from the people in the state. They can't get to us from the east side, but they are coming, like I said, as far as Bellingham. There's a group of 4 ladies came up from West Seattle.
Well, I could add something. I know that because besides the inn, we also have, we run a cafe, and so we're open like 4 days a week for breakfast and lunch. Again, that's food and beverage service, hospitality for travelers. And for instance, this last week, we've been almost as busy as a full-going ski season. I mean, and that's literally just from people coming up from all over the Puget Sound area, like Glenn said. They basically have come up, and they can't go to the pass. They know that, and they just came up. It was nice that we had a little snow, but came up just to have lunch. Families, couples, everything. So it's been great. Again, that first week, the contrast was stark. A week ago, before we got the media coverage and stuff, we had, 5 tables on a weekend day, and now we're back to pretty much normals. Like we do 40 or 50 tables in our normal weekend days. So that shows how much impact it's had on the public and their support for us. So yeah.
Can you share the story of the order of 8 French fries? French fries, 8 orders of French fries.
Quick little thing. So a gentleman came in. This was either Saturday or Sunday, and he came in and he's ordering 8 sides of fries to go. And I just kind of looked at him. I thought that was kind of strange, and I said, "That's all you need?" And he said, "Yeah, well, we were out at the deli. We got our burgers there, and they don't have fries. So they said, come on over because you have fries." And I said, "Well, that's great. That works perfectly." So we're happy to share.
And Henry will send the milkshake people over our way. He doesn't like to serve milkshakes. But to finish that story, the 4 ladies came in from West Seattle, and they proceeded to give $50 a tip to each of our employees at the time. And then they asked about the employees' families, and it just so happened that the one lady's family was in the deli eating. All 4 kids, all under the age of 10, I believe, and her husband, they were all there. And so they gave them each another $50 tip. So just things like that. That's why it brings a tear to my eye.
If I can just add, thanks for sharing that, Glenn. And Huskies, we got it covered. But I think that emotion's real. It's here, but also really all across the state, right? Folks have been impacted in huge ways. I've seen that. I'm just proud as governor. I'm not surprised by anything I've heard. Of folks stepping up. That's not a surprise to me. And by the way, one thing I just will add is that that the governor gets to declare any Washingtonian the Washingtonian of the day. It's a strict criteria. It's whoever the governor decides should be the Washingtonian of the day that day. It's a very strict criteria. So I can't think of a better person than Glenn, and for all the business owners who went through it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, really appreciate it. Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for that slight diversion, everybody. Happy to take other questions that you have. Yes.
King 5 News.
Yeah.
Speaking of businesses, obviously, especially along Highway 2, will the state be providing any type of financial support for these businesses, such as Glenn or anything like that, as they try to get back on their feet? Obviously, this reopening is huge news,
yes,
but there's still a lot to be done.
Absolutely. So thanks for that question. I'll just repeat it so folks could hear it. It goes to, hey, the impacts on businesses, what can be done financially to help businesses? I'll extend that answer to homeowners who've been impacted, right? Our infrastructure. So, and we talked about this at the community meeting we just had, which is we're now going through a process of making a request to the federal government for disaster relief. That's an important step that provides funds to the state of Washington for all sorts of assistance for folks. That's going to be a team effort with everybody who's behind me and many other voices from many counties and jurisdictions and individuals. So we're compiling all that information. That request will come in the coming weeks. Also very much at the ground level, when I've been to communities from Hamilton to Sumas to Orting, all across our state, we're working hard with the local communities to make sure that business owners understand what options they have, but also to make sure we're documenting flood impacts, for example, to those businesses, to make sure that's part of our story to the federal government. So more to come on all that as we make that request, but it will be very important that the federal government grant that disaster relief, which will help so many Washingtonians and our infrastructure as well.
And then secondly, too, do we have a proper timeline on when Highway 2 will be restored? Obviously, we've talked about this Sunday. That's a great step, but moving forward.
Yeah, so I think the very first time we announced the impacts shortly after the 10th, I think the phrase that we used was full restoration of Highway 2 back to where it was pre-storm would be months, and that hasn't changed. So to be clear, there's going to be detours. That detour from Leavenworth to Coles Corner is going to be in place for an extended period of time, and till March at least. So we're a little careful about timelines for obvious reasons, right? It's winter, it's difficult to do the work, it's challenging work, but that's why we just want to be clear. This is incredibly good news, obviously, right, for this part of the state to access Stevens Pass, and we're so thankful we can open up on a limited basis from Leavenworth to the pass as well, but we have a lot of work ahead of us, and there's a lot of uncertainty. Just given the weather and the road conditions, the road's gone in certain parts of it. Just literally, it's gone. You've seen the images. The public has seen those images. So, we're moving as quickly as we can. Safety is the first consideration. We'll keep the public updated, obviously, but it's still going to be, I think it's fair to say, months. That is a certainty before the highway's restored to what it was before this natural disaster.
When we say months, I think March there, is that?
We just want to be super careful. So, that is a very rough estimate right now. But again, we just have a lot of work to do. We just appreciate your understanding and patience with that. We're just trying to provide the information that we have with the public in a way that sets expectations, in a way that we think is appropriate. And certainly it's going to be months before this highway's back to what it was before. There's just no getting around that.
I know we've asked before about a number when it comes to damage and the cost of making all these repairs, and you guys weren't prepared to give that before. Any ideas now?
That hasn't changed. We still don't have a number on the total cost. That came up in the earlier conversation as well. We understand why legislators are anxious for that, why the public's anxious for that. Believe me, I'm anxious for that. I asked Julie, for a number probably, 6 times a day. But we just have to be patient, right? We have a lot on our plate right now. We've got to focus on what's right in front of us, which is opening up access as quickly as we can. But of course, once we have even an estimate of what that damage is, once we have that, of course, we'll share that with the public as soon as we have an estimate that we think is appropriate. And of course, we'll be sharing that with the federal government. So it'll be, certainly in the coming weeks, I'd say not months, we'll certainly be providing our request to the federal government, back to that question about the disaster relief, and that will be a pretty detailed accounting of the financial impact. That doesn't get to the emotional impact or loss. I mean, right, there's a lot there that will take a long time for us to recover from as a state, but from that part of it, we'll have a lot more information in the coming weeks.
Governor, just a few days ago, you announced your transportation budget.
Yeah.
Can any of that money help in this situation? Can any of that money help prevent things like this from happening again?
Sure. So on the transportation budget, I did propose in my transportation budget $2 billion to be invested in infrastructure and maintenance and preservation, roads, bridges, et cetera. That proposal was baked before this storm happened. I think it's fair to say that this natural disaster has only underscored how important that investment is. That investment is like the largest proposed investment we've had in our state for many, many, many years. So I think it was important before the storm. I think it's magnified post-storm. But one thing to keep in mind, of course, is to your question, because we're asking for disaster relief, we're asking for federal assistance financially with that infrastructure. So a lot's to be determined on, hey, how much is going to come from the federal government, if any, candidly, right? And then what that means for the state. So there's some unknowns there. I'm a one step at a time kind of person, and so the step for us in front of us is to make the most compelling case we possibly can for disaster relief. And that's my big job right now, working with the folks behind me and from all across the state. We're very, very focused on that. And I'll take meetings with whoever I need to meet with back in Washington, D.C. My team will. We're going to do everything we can to make sure we get those federal dollars, because the impact, while we don't know the exact number, it's obvious it's going to be a significant cost.
If I'm not mistaken, you said it was probably going to be a process of a few more weeks before you actually put in that request.
Yeah.
What's the time frame look like on if there is any money getting that?
Yeah, so I'm working off memory, so my apologies. We can follow up with you afterwards, so my apologies. I'm working off memory. I might get this a little bit late, a little bit off. But my recollection is, but double check with my team, is once we make the application, FEMA reviews it. That takes a couple weeks. It then goes to the White House, and then it's up to whatever period of time it is there. So it's not unusual, to get a response relatively quickly once we've submitted it, but there is a process that we're not in control of at that point, right? That goes to the federal government, goes through FEMA, goes to the White House. So I don't want to project that only because we're not in control of that process, but our goal is to get our application in soon, as in weeks. It won't be 3 months before we get that in. It's going to be relatively soon. But again, we have to get a lot of information at the very, very local level. And so if you are a homeowner and your home's been impacted by the flood, document that. Communicate that up to your local elected officials. Communicate that up to the state. We want that information. We need that information, frankly, to build our case for disaster relief. But again, we'll keep the public update on that, but it'll be a matter of weeks before we turn that in, and then it's up to the federal government.
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to ask about, business prep. I know people have been kind of chomping at the bit to get up to the slopes. There was a lot of discussion over, whether those season passes could be transferred to another year. What do you think this Sunday is going to be like as far as crowds?
Good question.
I think it'll be very crowded. I know there's a lot of people, as you said, chomping at the bit. I mean, we follow social media and stuff. We have a site there. I think all the businesses here do, and you hear the social media and clamoring for getting access from the west side. The first improvement made last week, that was a great step, and people were excited about that, but that was pretty limited as to who could access, and this really changes things. It opens it wide up, and I think we'll be slammed.
In a good way.
That's not a technical term either. But.
Any other questions that folks have?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hello, Governor and Scott. I would like to know a specific time on Sunday. Being a property owner, I've had very little information east of Milepost 54, and there's a culvert where the tie does cross under, and I got no information about the condition of the road there, and I just want to do a welfare check on my cabin to get my skis, but I don't really care about skiing just now. I just want to put eyes up by scenic.
So the question is, what time specifically on Sunday will it open? We don't have a specific time, so we'll announce that when we have it. But you want to be clear, folks are working extremely hard, to open this up. But we obviously want to be sure about that time for obvious reasons. There's going to be a lot of interest in that. We just want to make sure, we're being responsible and setting a time that works. But that'll obviously be coming in the coming days, and we'll be putting that out there, and I'm sure the word will get around. But thank you for asking that. I asked that question of Julie just before this press conference, and she said, hey, we got to hold off until we know for sure. Any other questions that folks have? Yeah.
Mainly for WashStop, but obviously we have a sign right behind you, please make Highway 2 safer.
Yeah.
How do you guys plan on doing that long-term wise instead of just patching it up, right? Because at the end of the day, this could happen again, so how do we plan on doing this long-term wise?
I'll start on Highway 2. This was also brought up during the community meeting we had as someone who uses Highway 2 a lot. As I said before, I'm very mindful of the safety issues there and the loss of life that's occurred there. I'm very mindful of that. Done this road many, many times. Traveled it with my kids were little with my wife. We had conversations about that before we set out. When I drive it, I'm extraordinarily careful, when I would drive it. That said, that's why, if I can make a plug for my proposal, my budget, right? There's a reason why I proposed $2 billion in infrastructure investments in my budget, which is historical. We have, as a state, underinvested, and that's putting it diplomatically, in our infrastructure as a state. Highway 2 is a good example. Trust me, there are highways and bridges all across our state, where when I'm in a community, I'm hearing the exact same thing, but fill in the blank for the name of a bridge or a road or infrastructure in some way. And so even if the legislature adopts every penny of my $2 billion proposed budget, I hope they do, of course, right? But even that, by no stretch of the imagination, solves our need for our investments in our infrastructure. I want to be very clear about that. But it is an important step, right, in getting us where we need to go. And look, I'll say, I love a ribbon cutting of a new place, of a new building or a new bridge as much as anybody does. But candidly, we need to set those aside for the time being and focus on our maintenance. We have, how many bridges are over 80 years old? Like 80, yeah, exactly. It's a large number of bridges that are already past their kind of anticipated life. They need improvements. They need paint jobs that extend their life. We need to do that to preserve the infrastructure we have, and to your point, to continue making investments for safety as well. So I'm mindful of that on a personal level, and it goes to the legislative process, and we'll be working closely we have a number of legislators here, which I'm deeply thankful, for their hard work on this disaster in general, but also their interest in that part of the budget as well. Any final question before we wrap up? Yeah.
Curious to hear what motivated you to come up here and hold the sign. Would you like to share just a little bit of that with us? I mean, I am curious.
So what I'll do is he'll be available afterwards to talk to you, if that's okay. We got to wrap up. We're going to go visit the bridge, if that's okay. So I just want to wrap up by saying how much I appreciate all of you taking time to be here on short notice, which we appreciate. Mayor, thank you again for hosting us. Number three, I just want to say, to Washingtonians, as a new governor, and first time dealing with a natural disaster, obviously of a pretty major scope, you don't know what the response is going to be out there. And, I just will say that I've been so thankful by the response of so many folks, from elected folks down to community level, to what you're saying, Mayor, right, and Glenn, about, hey, folks just reading about what's going on and driving here. And it's wonderful to see, and what makes our state so great. So I'm deeply thankful to all the Washingtonians who are watching, who have done that. And there's lots of communities just like this who have been deeply, deeply impacted by the flood. And we're going to continue getting out to those communities and doing everything we can to help out individuals, businesses, and our infrastructure. Thanks so much for being here, everybody. Really appreciate it. Have a great day, everybody. Yeah.